We've just left Loveland and we're heading west on 34. We're about 22 miles to Estes Park. And this is a pretty drive. It's a windy drive through the mountains. So there should be some good views. Here we come into the canyon. Entering Big Thompson Canyon. And now we're entering Roosevelt National Forest. The locals usually drive pretty fast through here. This guy in front of us is from Oklahoma. And they're clearly taking it slowly and enjoying the view. I may have to sneak around him here. Got a good view here. Oh, come on, dude. Don't gun it. So you're going to speed up to not let me around, huh? Thanks. He goes from 25 to 50 when I try to pass him. Got the cars stacking up behind me now because this guy in front is slow. A number of you guys have asked about the power on this Vespa GTS 300. You guys have asked if it has enough torque for the mountain roads. How fast does it go? What's the top speed? I get a lot of questions like that. And I guess the simplest way for me to put it is that cruising on roads like this, I feel like it's sort of most comfortable between about 40 and 60 or maybe 65. It will go faster than that, but you don't have a lot of sort of extra power above 60 miles an hour. In terms of acceleration from stop, 0 to 40 is reasonably quick. It's pretty easy to out-accelerate most cars if you're coming off of a stoplight or something. Obviously, you know, somebody in a car who's just completely flooring it, trying to do like their best 0 to 60 time is probably going to beat you. But just in day-to-day driving, sort of off the line, it's very zippy. So it's very easy to sort of get around in traffic. You don't feel like you're holding people up. And there's sort of, you know, plenty of torque and acceleration 0 to 40. From 40 on up to about 75, the acceleration is quite a bit slower. But I still feel like there's enough power for rides like this, no problem. And then again, sort of like cruising speed, like right now we're going 45 miles an hour, about 70 kilometers an hour, and the engine is not doing much of anything at all. We're just kind of cruising along. So it's a very comfortable ride, I would say, on, you know, smaller highways, roads like this. A big freeway where everybody's going 90 miles an hour, I would not want to, you know, this wouldn't be my first choice. But, you know, but power-wise, for day-to-day stuff and for trips like this, I think this thing's just fine. You don't have a lot of extra in terms of torque and power, but you're not necessarily particularly deficient either. So I have two other motorcycles. I have a Yamaha TW200, which is kind of like a farm bike. It's a dual sport, and it's geared very, very low. It's really, you know, more of kind of a dirt road, dirt trail, putt around the farm kind of bike, and it doesn't have much power. It's a 200cc engine. Got a nice view here. Mountains peeking through up there. And it's quite a bit slower on the road. I would take this on the road any day before I would take the TW200. The other motorcycle that I have is a Yamaha Super Tenere 1200, and it's obviously a big, fast motorcycle compared to this thing. There's really kind of no comparison. So I'm passing that guy. I'm going 65. I've got a little bit of a headwind here. See if this guy will come around me now. I'm trying to slow down to let him around. He's the one who's been on my tail that wants to go fast. There we go. So there, you know, there was an indication in terms of passing at the, you know, what I would say higher speeds. We started out at about 45, got up to about 65, and you could see how long that acceleration took. I wasn't quite at full throttle. I was just giving it a bit, but even full throttle wouldn't have been too different than that. But you can see how fast the locals drive. There was a 35-mile-an-hour advisory sign for this corner. I'm doing 50, so the car in front of me is doing 50 as well. A little bit under 50 now. But anyway, you know, in terms of the power, I'd say it's totally adequate, and your perception of it is going to depend on what you're coming from. If you're coming from a 50cc scooter, this thing is going to feel huge and fast. If you're coming from a 1200cc street bike, this thing's going to feel really small and slow. You know, the question is basically, you know, what are you looking for? What are your expectations? You know, I would say that the power is safe and adequate for trips like this. You know, as I said before, I wouldn't want to use it on an interstate highway where the speeds are high and you've got high winds and lots of trucks and that sort of thing. Got a bug in my helmet. Got something crawling by my eye. I don't know how it got in there. There we go. Trying to think what other questions I've been asked lately. Thank you guys for all the comments on the videos. It's interesting to see, you know, what people want to talk about and what people are interested in. I started making these videos for just a couple of friends and family, and the viewership has sort of exploded. I've had quite a bit of views, particularly on the new Vespa video and the Vespa camp out video and some of the rides like this. So it's nice to know that at least somebody's watching the videos. Hope you guys enjoy them. And if you have other questions, I'm happy to answer anything that I can, or at least try to answer. So you know, just put a comment down below. It's quite windy through this little valley. I don't know if you can see the grass moving along the side of the road and hear some of the gusts, but even though the trees are still, there's still a good amount of wind here. And our Range Rover race car driver is off. So 55, 60. Yeah, we have quite a headwind here. I can really feel it. It's a really pretty rock face here. Little waterfall off to the left. So one of the other questions that I got recently was about oil use, and apparently these newer HPE engines are known to use a little bit of oil. And on mine, we're now at 1,530 miles, and I did my break-in oil change at about 600 miles. So we're, 900 miles past the break-in oil change, and the level on the dipstick has changed very, very little. It's dropped just ever so slightly, and if you look at the dipstick, obviously it has this sort of cross-hatching in addition to the horizontal lines showing the high level and the low level. Then you have the cross-hatching in between, and with the cross-hatching it's kind of hard to get kind of an exact level. But I would say that it's just a tiny bit below that full line where I filled it on my 600-mile oil change. So it's lost, so little or it's used so little in 900 miles that, I wouldn't add oil. I'd be afraid that I would overfill it if I added any. So at least so far with mine, it doesn't seem to be using any oil, which is good. And when I check the oil, it looks surprisingly clean. I mean, it looks like new oil. There's no soot or, there's very little blackening of the oil, if any at all. Not that the oil color is a great indicator of the oil condition, but, so far so good, as far as I can tell. Did you guys see the fat lady in her pajamas on the balcony back there? To my international viewers, I will say welcome to America. I'm going to go this way and turn around. Lots of little trinket shops. Taffy, ice cream, food and gifts. Here's the little stream that sort of runs through town. Entrance, day use pass $30, 7-day pass $35, annual pass $70. Hunting prohibited, antler collecting prohibited. So we're going to do our little turnaround here. There's a permit required. No entry without reservation. But that's it. That's the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park. Got a fly fisherman down there. Things are getting slow and congested. I'm going to pull over here. Let those guys get ahead of us a little bit. Should we stop and look at this pretty little stream? Pretty spot. It's a good looking Vespa. Horse crossing, 1 mile. Oh, road narrows and it turns into a dirt road. Probably not where I want to be going. I get confused. I don't come over here all that often. One of these roads heads back north and just loops right by Horsetooth Reservoir, and I think this might be it. I didn't see a sign though. Normally that's all water and it's mud. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, normally the water just comes up right along these campsites and all the way over to the trees on the far bank there. So it is really low. I've been over to this little beach, and last time I was there, if you can see the sort of smooth sand going up and then the rock, the water was almost up to the rock the last time I was there. And you can see the line that they have for the swimming areas on the ground instead of floating in the water. Water level's extremely low. I think the guy behind me is getting impatient. Everybody's going so slowly. This big white truck back behind me is not a happy camper. Coming back into town, and it's going to get boring quickly. So I guess this is it. At least you got another peek of the Front Range area of northern Colorado. We're coming into Fort Collins now. We were in Loveland and Estes Park. First we went west on 34, then we turned around at the Rocky Mountain National Park, and we came back east on 34, and then we turned on whatever the names of those other roads were, I don't recall, and looped north. We were on the west side of 287 on some of the smaller roads that looped up to Horsetooth Reservoir. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Talk to you guys later.